Hi folks, welcome back to the Dark Wolf Project and another video on a topic in natural sciences that hasn't received a whole lot of attention, but I found really interesting, and hopefully so will you. This time the question is, does Wi-Fi kill trees? I know it sounds pretty clickbaity, but this is a genuine study that's been taking place over the past couple of decades. So back in the early 2000s, there was a bit of concern in the scientific community over the possible effects of electromagnetic or EM radiation, specifically the radio frequency wavelengths used by mobile communications devices on living organisms in the environment. They were particularly concerned in assessing plants around radio masts, since unlike animals they don't move around, and therefore were exposed to radiation from the same direction continuously, so any effects on trees or plants near radio masts would be a lot more apparent a lot sooner. Now, there's been about a dozen papers published since the turn of the century on this topic, but one of the most detailed that I could find was a study conducted in Germany. This was over an area about 30 kilometers squared, and from a time period from 2007 to 2013. The researchers in this study assessed damage to trees within the study area and monitored any deterioration that they couldn't account for by the environment. Basically, they were looking for a link between the EM waves emitted by radio towers and physical damage to the trees. The results actually showed a really strong correlation between not only the tree's proximity to a radio mast, but also trees which were unilaterally damaged. That's damaged on one side, and that side was the one that was facing the radio tower. So how is the radiation actually causing damage to the trees then? Well, the most recent study I could find into this is from 2018, and they concluded that radio frequency electromagnetic waves could be altering the proteins within plant cells, specifically preventing the thylakoids within chloroplasts in photosynthetic plant cells from successfully lowering the energy state of electrons, thereby harnessing less energy for the plant to carry out its basic functions of transporting nutrients around it. In simpler terms, because even I had a hard time getting my head around that, the electromagnetic radiation is causing damage to the leaf structure at a cellular level, and that's preventing the plant from being able to carry out its basic function, which is to grow. Now, the evidence for this is actually visible in the photographs. You can see that the leaves are either dropping or turning from green to autumnal colours a lot earlier, and well, this is suggestive of the chloroplasts, the pigmentation within them which gives them the green colour, chlorophyll, actually being damaged and not carrying out its job properly. Now, these results were serious enough that back in 2011 there was an international conference on EMF impacts to trees, and a subsequent call for further studies following that to determine just how serious the impacts could be. Some of the scientists who attended this conference actually called on the immediate halt to the construction of all cell phone towers, which, as you can imagine, it didn't happen. Now, the fact that we haven't really acted on this or conducted really in-depth research is kind of alarming the more you think about it, because, well, plants are responsible for removing pollutants from the air, as well as helping supply the oxygen that other respiring organisms require to breathe. Now, admittedly, the threat posed to trees and other plants by cell phone towers isn't quite on the same scale as deforestation or the more numerous wildfires we've had in recent years, but it is still kind of worrying that it's been essentially swept under the carpet. If we're lucky though, perhaps our technology will advance to the point where things like cell phones become obsolete before any real damage from the radio towers themselves has actually taken hold. So this one is, I guess, kind of anticlimactic, because we haven't actually done anything about the problem. We haven't looked into it a whole lot more since these studies, yet it hasn't gone away either. It's just been overshadowed by, well, the pandemic and the other worse forms of pollution and damage to the natural environment. So let me know your thoughts on the comments, and if you've heard anything about this topic that I haven't mentioned, maybe there's been some new developments, then let us know about them. As always, the articles that I've used for this topic are down in the description. If you found this video interesting, please consider liking and subscribing. Maybe have a look at my shop, which is linked down below. Everything about this project supports wolf conservation in the US and Europe. But until then, thanks for watching. Dark Wolf out.